A lot of these things, even when we look at the movie Hidden Figures, the contributions that Black people made by way of inventions, and it was this just the necessity to get something done. And we look at it at, my God, what was, I don't know if they were, I don't know if they knew what they were doing. So Dina, what would you change knowing the gravity of what history can be, even to your own legacy? What are some things you might decide to do differently, being cognizant that you're making history?
Well, I guess when you put it that way, yeah, it would be nice to have had a plan, for most of that.
It would be.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have a plan, but I hope my lack of planning turns into your motivation to plan.
That's it.
My lack of planning actually gave you a plan. That's what I'm hoping happen. So, for instance, if I had known when I was
Welcome to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, where we get VIP access into the lives of Black women, or as we like to call us here, our Sister Nistas. We get to hear from some of our favorite Sister Nistas as they share their worlds with us and create connections, exchange realities, ideas, and baby, we get to recognize and celebrate how powerful we really are. Our sisterhood here is real, filled with peace, wisdom, hope, love, light, and laughter. You know, the kind you can feel, the kind of encouragement that confirms we can do anything because we have, and the kind of inspiration that proves we can be even greater. This is our world, where if you ain't a Black woman, you may want to be one, or definitely get to know one. It's a Black women's world, and we welcome our Sister Nista lovers too. Welcome to our queendom. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and I'm your host, TracyMac. Come on in and relax and sit with me for just a little while. Peace.
Well, hey, y'all, I'm TracyMac, and this is the BWWP. I am so glad to have my two dynamic co-hosts, Dina Hamilton and Javon Cookie Jones. Listen, it is Women's History Month, and I was just telling Dina and Javon that I don't really want to make a big to-do about it because we are women every day. And we make history every day. We happen to be Black women who make history every day. So Women's History Month is something that the calendar illuminates for women, but we doing this stuff every day. What y'all think?
Yeah, every day. There are so many people. I'm sure we can even think back on even our mothers, our aunties, our cousins that are out here just doing things in such a dynamic and huge way, that yes, every day women are still making history in one way or another. Ain't that right, Javon?
Yes, ma'am. We talked about on a previous show how women are so important in just everyday life. You know, how the Black woman especially is key to everything. So women in general, we got a little something different. We have more patience. Sometimes we think things out a little bit longer, and we can make history just by doing those little things and being strategic about it.
And you're right, Javon and Dina, because I'm thinking about also on a previous show when we talked about, do you think some of the women who made history knew that they were making history? Because sometimes I wonder if they were just living life. Because sometimes we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do what some of our ancestors did. And do you think they knew they were making history intentionally?
I don't think that they knew, because if you know, it's so much more pressure on you. For me, it's like sometimes I hear people saying, Dina, you said last week, No, Javon, you are making history. I don't see it like that. I'm just being passionate about the things that I love. So if I knew that somebody was actually taking notes and saying, okay, she did it like this, she's doing it like this, I would just stop everything. I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. No, do not look at me. No, that's not what I'm doing. So you don't know that you're making history. You just passionately operating in your purpose, and then you look back like, oh shoot, all this stuff came with it, or
Yeah.
this is you don't know, and that's my view on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes they knew that it was a historical moment. So for instance, the first thing that comes to my mind is like little Ruby Bridges. She knew that she was going to be the first. She knew that there was going to be a risk, even as a little girl, as breaking that barrier in education. And I believe she knew that there was a lot of pressure. But as a child, I don't know if she knew the gravity. I'm sure her parents knew the gravity of what they were allowing her to do. But she knew that this was going to be a significant moment in history for a lot of people, primarily for us Black Americans who were trying to seek equality in education.
Yeah, and that is so true, because not knowing the gravity, I like that. I really do, because sometimes we don't realize the impression that even we leave on people, and not realizing the gravity of decisions we make, things we do. And but I think being cognizant of our daily lives as women who are currently making history, that we become cognizant that somebody is going to watch, maybe even this, maybe even your personal life, maybe your business as it grows. Somebody is going to be able to watch and learn and take note. So what is something that, knowing the gravity of potentially being a history maker? I think everything we do is historical, but as far as being something that you do, what is something that, now knowing the gravity of what you're doing, being cognizant of what would you do different, Javon?
Oh, girl, plan. I would plan a whole lot differently. I think you all know more so than anybody. I jump out there and just get it while it's hot, or get it while it's good, if that makes any sense. I would sit back and just write it out and say, okay, this time I'll do it this way: A, B, C, and D. First is going from Z, Y, X, W, V all the way back.
Right.
There's no way. So I would definitely plan differently, knowing that this is history in the making. And I would take it a whole lot more seriously. Not that I don't take it seriously, but I would be more strategic with the planning period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What do you think, Dana? Does that make sense? And what's your answer?
It makes perfect sense. But Javon, would you really change it? I mean, let's think about it, because I guess our personalities are kind of the same in that way. If I really took the time to plan out everything from A to Z, I would not do it, because it would just seem
overwhelming.
Yeah, it would overwhelm me as to what, when, why, how, and all of that kind of stuff, versus just, you know what, I think this is just what I'm going to do, and not even think about the historical matter of it. I think that all of that as an adult, it just plays, or even as a child, just plays into your personality.
On the other, I just thought about.
What did you think about?
I'm thinking about Amelia Earhart, right? Okay. I don't know if y'all are familiar with her. She's like a female aviator. She was the first to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. So you think she was thinking, oh, let me make history with this? She was probably like, I'm tired of these doggone men always thinking I can't fly this plane. I'm about to do this. Oh, they're gone. Let me go. Zoom. And she probably just said, I'm out here now. She wouldn't think about history being made. She just knew what she could do, and she just soared doing that.
Literally soared, huh? Literally soared.
And
Yeah.
looking back, if you say, Amelia, would you do that again the same way? Or how would you plan differently as this white woman aviator? How would you? She would probably say, I would do it the exact same way.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, when the opportunity arose,
Yeah.
she jumped in and did what she knew how to do and did it well. Made
Yeah.
history from that.
So something you said, and Dina, we're gonna come back to you to give what would you change, but something you just said about Amelia Earhart or anybody, I think even when it comes to inventions and patents and things, because coming out of February, which is calendared as Black History Month, but we being Black and women, we Black every month, we make history every
Yeah.
day. So like,
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be controlled by the calendar when it's the lives we live. But a lot of the inventions were necessity is the mother of inventions. So even though we give a lot of credence that wasn't given to a lot of the inventions we use every day, the stoplight, the toilet, even the materials that make up the cell phone, the GPS, a lot of these things, even when we look at the movie Hidden Figures, the contributions that Black people made by way of inventions, and it was just the necessity to get something done. And we look at it at, my God, I don't know if they knew what they were doing. So Dina, what would you change knowing the gravity of what history can be, even to your own legacy? What are some things you might decide to do differently, being cognizant that you're making history?
Well, I guess when you put it that way, yeah, it would be nice to have had a plan, for most of that.
It would be.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have a plan, but I hope my lack of planning turns into your motivation to plan.
That's it.
My lack of planning actually gave you a plan. That's what I'm hoping happen. So, for instance, if I had known when I was 13 or 14 that I could actually own a business, like my kids, if I knew that then, I would like to think that I would be further. You know what I mean? That I would be further along. So I hope that they learn from my lack of knowledge, planning, support, and all that kind of stuff. That I didn't have. I didn't know, I just didn't. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And you do have to go through all of these trip ups and barriers and that type of stuff because you just have no idea what you don't know. I just think about how much money I invested and how much money I probably could have saved, even with the, with the production of the show.
An Amazon best-selling author with an ARC Book Club Incorporated 5-star rating and your self-discovery companion, TracyMac is setting positive change ablaze with her 3 incredible books. Looking for an interactive resource that reveals how to strategically overcome obstacles that can hinder you from developing your purpose and consistently enjoy the limitless benefits of living your best life? Well, grab your copy of TracyMac's book, The Book of Purpose, The You Testament. Through true stories, real-world examples, and thought-provoking questions and principles, you can make your best dreams a reality and achieve big goals that sustain peace in your life. Well, it's all about relationships, yours, mine, and ours. In her book, Relationships, Nothing But the Truth, TracyMac brings her signature style along with some of her most cherished relationships, talking about true experiences and many perspectives, openly and honestly, sharing intriguing stories from the provocative and controversial to the seemingly ordinary and outright funny. Do you lead? What if there was a resource specifically designed to sharpen thought systems and optimize wisdom for the keen mind of our C-suite professionals, progressive leaders, and social change agents? Well, there is. Thought Systems, How Progressive Professionals Nurture Their Wisdom. TracyMac has brilliantly created a comprehensive collection of wisdom principles for those who lead, ultimately benefiting those who choose to follow. Your solution has arrived. If you are ready to live an amazing life of change with sustainable results and measurable success, get your copy of one or all three of these awesome books where fine books are sold today to start your journey.
You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast.
If only I had known, but if I knew how much it really
Okay, roll that back. Production of the show. A lot of people don't know. Go ahead and say.
I produced a talk show called Dina Hamilton Presents The Great Mentor. We did 3 seasons on the CW, and but if I had known, really, I think if I had known how much it actually took as far as time, energy, and money, I probably would not have done it because I wouldn't have been able to see past what I couldn't see. How am I going to get this money? You know, how am I going to find this crew? Who does
sponsorships?
What does all of this mean? You know, if I would have been overwhelmed with all of that.
Yeah. Because I think it's excellent that we have women we can refer back to. We can see their strength. We can see their influence. We can see the tenacity. I mean, the doggedness that they took a particular cause and just held on to that thing like pit bulls and really rode it through to victory. And I think sometimes when we look so far back, we lose sight of the history that's in the making. We may go far back justifiably to women that have made historical contributions to the world. But what about our aunties, our grandmothers, our cousins, our friends who have done things that maybe not now are not appreciated? And sometimes that's even now doing this podcast and even how I present myself honestly and authentically to the world. Sometimes people aren't ready for what I do and say right now. But futuristically, so I'm not always thinking about the future, but I'm always thinking about if somebody don't want it right now, they will.
That's right.
So it's like I have that thing in my mind, and even like something as simple as y'all know, a lot of us from time to time put what we eat or cook on social media. Well, I was doing it, but I didn't start doing it for my personal page on Facebook or Instagram. I started taking pictures of my cooking process for my own child because I wanted to make sure she knew I don't use recipes. You just put it on there till your ancestors whisper and say stop. So I don't use recipes. So I wanted her to see the process. So I would pull the ingredients that I use, the tools that I use, the pots and pans or whatever. And I wanted her to be able to come behind me by way of pictures. Plus my daughter has severe dyslexia. So I knew that reading wasn't going to be something she was going to take time to even read a recipe. So I was like, okay, she learns best with pictures. So I was taking pictures of my cooking process long before I started putting them on social media because I wanted my daughter to have a historical count of the food she likes. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, people may see it now and say, oh, you cooked that, but it was never for them. It was for my daughter, because how many recipes do we know die in the grave? Because aunt somebody or grandma so-and-so wanted to keep it a secret. So I don't know if that makes sense to the subject matter,
it makes
but
perfect sense, Tracy. That's just another form of being able to implement what is it called? Just something that a generational recipe or something like that for your child, and it's just done differently using technology. Had we had the recipe to our grandmother's homemade rolls, we would not be doing this podcast right now. We would be full
I wasn't gonna dime out Annie Rose, who would have been 100 years old on March 1st. But you're right. Our grandmother made, her rolls were so good that every Christmas and Thanksgiving, she made hundreds of thousands of rolls for the church.
Our Christmas gift one year.
Yes.
We were like rolls and cupcakes.
Before I got married, she came, no, the weekend of my wedding, she came earlier to my parents' house and I had her show me how to make rolls. But she was so discombobulated because she wasn't in her kitchen with her tools that they didn't turn out like she wanted them. And she said, I'll show you later. And we never got that opportunity. And those recipes went with her I have her sifter, but I don't know how to make her rolls.
Right.
So
right.
I think we make a deliberate effort, especially with technology, because it's at our fingertips. Dina, what do you think about a deliberate effort, even though not having to plan, being conscious and so like a cognizant of how will you move forward in making history for your legacy?
Wow, that overwhelmed me. Just that. But I am very deliberate now when Mima comes to visit because she's such an excellent baker. And that's what my girls are doing to make sure that they learn something from her every time. So the last visit, she taught them how to make her lemon pound cake. And I just enjoyed seeing her interact with them, in the kitchen. She's here once a month, and every month it's something different. So I really want to continue
So
that.
sweet. I'm telling you.
For
That
them.
is.
If we had that, oh
yeah, because I don't think we realize, if we had the episode about hair, how just sitting in between the knees of your mom or your aunt or sister, whatever, getting your hair done, the transference of information, it also happens in the kitchen.
That's right.
It happens around the cooking. And because we don't get together, I know now because of pandemic, but even before, families don't really get together as much or as frequently as they used to. And we're losing some of that historical content passed down. So Javon, same question. What will you do different going forward, realizing that you are history or her story in the making?
I guess I could say, like, be more intentional, just make sure that, I know with every move, especially with my children watching or other young women watching, just make sure I make it known that even though it may not be said, I make it known that, okay, somebody's watching and I want to make sure this is executed with as much passion and success that they could see it. They know what to do to grab hold to it. They know what to do to hop on board, or do it their way.
Yes. Yes.
That's the biggest.
Because if history repeats itself, if history has to repeat me, can I leave it in the instructions? Are they clear?
Yeah.
So as we continue to celebrate, whether it be Black History Month, every day, all day, every month, every year, whether it be Women's History Month, every day, all day, the BWWP listeners, sister nieces and sister niece lovers, this is who we are. This is what we do. So we have the opportunity to make history, her story, every day. Let's take advantage of it. My co-host, in closing, wind it up. What are your last thoughts on Women's History Month?
Do you, and be great at it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have to, I loved your Amelia Earhart reach back in history. But even if you're Amelia, she had a hard time. But Becky Coleman, she had an even harder time. She couldn't even get her pilot's license here in the United States. She had to go to Europe to get it. So sometimes you cannot be in a place of home to get what you need in order to move forward. Sometimes you do have to move to another place, whether that's physically or just mentally. Most of the time it is mentally. You're just going to have to move into another state in order for you to make that moment happen. And as Tracy said, every day, all day, somebody is watching and you are their blueprint. So make it count because it matters.
And everybody can go with you.
Whoa, girl, you done started a whole nother show at the end. Why you do that?
I just had to put that in there. Everybody can go with you.
It's true, because as we close with it, that's true, because you think of the people who made history, it ends up just being them. When you see the pictures in encyclopedias or on Wikipedia, or that's not too trusted, but in any form of legitimate social media pages and platforms, that's just a picture of them by themselves. They may have had a crew, a team, a community to help them get there, but your history, her story is yours and yours alone. So my sister nieces and sister niece lovers, keep making history. Much love and peace.
You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by TracyMac Solutions for Life Institute, coaching and training services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of sister niestas and sister niesta lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what sister niestas do, on purpose, through mission, with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my sister niesta, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, TracyMac. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.